Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will learn Tesis Dibra Maschel Va'amar Rabbi Yechanan She'im Hasan Kulam Be'elam Achas Chulu. Let's begin by looking at the flowchart of the Gemara so we can see what Tesis is coming to explain. So here in the Gemara we presented the teaching of Isi ben Yehuda, who said that there are 39 Avos Malachas, and a person's only chayav one chatas for all of them. So the Gemara asked that later on the Mishnah in Perek Gadol says that there are 39 Avos Malachas, and then it goes on to mention what those 39 Malachas are. And the Gemara asks, why does it need to tell us the number at the beginning? Why does it start by saying there are 39 Avos Malachas? And Rabbi Yechanan explained that the Mishnah is telling us that if a person did all 39 malachas, he needs to bring 39 chatais. So that we asked, how can Isi say that for all 39 malachas, a person only brings one chatas? So this is the part of the Gemara that Tosfos is coming to explain and talk about. Let's see the general outline of Tosfos. In the Gemara we asked, how can Isi say one is only chayav one chatas for doing all 39 malachas, if Rabbi Yechanan explained the Mishnah in Perek Gadol to be saying that one is chayav 39 chatais? So Tosfos will explain why we assume that Isi doesn't argue with that Mishnah. Our question is that from the Mishnah we see that a person has to bring 39 chatais, and Isi said he only has to bring one chatas. What's the question? Isi is a Tana. So why do we assume that Isi agrees with that Mishnah? Maybe he argues with that Mishnah. So let's see Tosfos in the flowchart form. We asked, how can Isi say one is only chayav one chatas for doing all 39 malachas, if Rabbi Yechanan explained the Mishnah in Perek Gadol to be saying that one is chayav 39 chatais? So Tosfos explains, and the whole thing is just in a purple arrow pointing upwards, because he's explaining what the question of the Gemara is. We don't have to explain that the question is based on saying that Isi probably doesn't argue with that Mishnah. The Gemara is not saying over here that since the Mishnah in Perek Gadol says he needs to bring 39 chatais, it's preferable and better to say, and it's more likely to say that Isi doesn't argue with that Mishnah. We don't have to say that. That's a weaker question, because we could just as well say that he does argue. Rather, we have a stronger question over here, and that is, we can see it from the words of Isi himself, since he says the number. If we look at the teaching of Isi, it says, Avos Malachas Mem Chasar Achas, there are 39 Avos Malachas, Ve'ein chayav el achas, and he's only chayav one. That's an inherent contradiction. If he was coming to tell us a person only brings one chatas, he would have said, for all the Avos Malachas, a person brings one carbon chatas. But he didn't say that. He said there are 39 Avos Malachas. By saying the number, it indicates that there are 39 Malachas, and a person needs to bring 39 chatos. And then he goes on to say he only brings one. So there's an inherent contradiction, so it comes out that we can't say that Isi is saying that a person only brings one chatos, because then his teaching won't make sense. So in other words, the question is not just from the Mishnah in Perek Gadol, but we're bringing out a message from the Mishnah in Perek Gadol, that when we say the number, it indicates that a person's chayiv for all of the malachas. He's chayiv for each one. So for 39 malachas, there are 39 chatos. And that being the case, when Isi says there are 39 avos malachas, it makes no sense that the end of his teaching is, and he's only chayav one chatas for all of them. So it comes out, what Tosfos is saying here is, he's explaining the question of the Gemara, that the question of the Gemara is not just from the Mishnah in Perek Gadol, that it's preferable and more likely to say that Isi is not arguing with it, but rather we're saying that Isi can't be saying that teaching, it won't make sense in his words himself.